It's the first time in 6 years Sunderland win their opening game of the season. Up, you red and white baguettes, and welcome to Where Black Cats Walk. We're reviewing the Cardiff game and we're looking ahead today. We're doing that all with our fantastic fans. Oh, yes. Up the red and white baguettes. You got your French flags, your berets on. The French Revolution has started. Welcome back, Dylan, and Carl is on holiday this week. So delighted that you are coming back to, talk about that Cardiff win. How are you, Dylan? You refreshed from your trails?
Yeah, definitely much better after the weekend. Obviously, as you said, first time in years we've had a positive result on the opening day, so that was a nice feeling. Wasn't too happy to go to work this morning, but it was went in on a bit of a high, so had to put up with all the mags, but it wasn't too
bad. We will come on to all of that. Let's just go through what we're doing on today's show. So we are going to talk about the Cardiff game. We're also going to bring in our Sheffield Wednesday fan and talk about the next game, of course, because Championship football returns Stadium of Light. We've also got some takes for you to rate about the game, and our focus today is on goalkeepers as we now review your squad ahead of the window closing. We'll obviously talk about goalkeepers. We know it's strikers that you need, but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks, and hopefully by then you've got one. But actually, Cal, who needs one? Because as long as Jack Clark keeps scoring, and you can keep hold of him, so you don't need a striker, do you? Let's review the game, shall we? Cal, you can kick us off. What went well?
I think the style of play that Labrise has brought in with the midfielders, we talked about it last week. I thought Alan Brown was brilliant. The way that he picks up positions on the pitch, defensively, offensively. He's got a great engine on him. He just seems to get up and down with no bother. Job, I've always been pretty critical. I think he's relatively slow in terms of his running pace, but I thought he was brilliant yesterday, to be fair.
Yeah, and the passes he's putting through, more of those. You're going to find goals hard to come by, are we? Dylan, were you as similarly as impressed as Cal?
Yeah, thought it was a really good game. We had some shaky moments, especially sort of in the opening minutes. Few nervy moments where I think Adji had a bit of a suicide pass a few minutes in, but other than that, defence was all right. And I think it was just the little things I was really impressed by. Like, for years now, when Sunderland have played the ball around the back, it sort of looks like it's just the centre backs just passing it to each other and hoping something opens. And then now it looks a lot more methodical, thought out, like you make an X pass to draw a wide player out to create space. And I was just the little things like that really impressed me, and it shows that maybe the standards are getting a bit higher for once.
Yeah, so I've only seen the highlights, but the highlights didn't show much of Cardiff at all. Was that because they weren't in the game from minute one, Cal, or is that just because Sunderland, all the good football just came from you boys?
I've got to be honest. I mean, Cardiff did have more than ball than us, but they didn't do anything with it. They had Callum O'Dowda, I think their left back and Chris Willock were their two probably most threatening players, and they took Willock off in 60th minute or something, and then they didn't really have many chances apart from one that sort of bobbled through the 6-yard box and off Ramsey's shin into Patterson's grateful hands. But apart from that, possession doesn't mean everything, does it?
No, absolutely not. And did we learn much about your manager then, Dylan, on here? What about substitutions? What about in-game tactics? It's very hard to say after one game, but did we learn much about him as a coach, as a manager?
I mean, what people were saying about him wanting to play a high press, the way it looked through pre-season, that was sort of reinforced the other day, because we were pressing really high, trying to win the ball back in high areas and get quick turnarounds. I was really impressed, sort of just in the faces, and obviously a few mistakes were made, but it was opening day, things like that are going to happen. But it definitely looked a lot more positive than pretty much every other game last season.
And like you said, Cal, Sunderland don't win their opening games at all, very rarely, do you? The mood around this team now is buzzing, and you're going to go to Preston in the Carabao Cup, of course, and they are not playing well. And obviously, we're going to take on Sheffield Wednesday. Same starting 11 for you against Wednesday, Cal. Any changes needed?
No, I think it should be the same. I mean, obviously we'll see which players go out and play against Preston on Tuesday night, but I think that you've got to stick with it. Even Mayenda for me up top, he had sort of 2 decent chances yesterday. One he should have definitely buried, but I think if he gets one, I really do think he's going to take off. He just looks like there's something about him. So yeah, I'd stick with the same 11 for next Sunday.
Okay, and just a final word then on Cardiff, Dylan. Based on what you saw, where would you put Cardiff finishing this season?
What it's. I don't think they'll be struggling near the bottom. I think they've made some good signings. Obviously, they've signed Callum Chambers, Chris Willock. We're yet to see Anwar El Ghazi, but I'm sure he's going to be great when he comes into the side. But I could see them finishing sort of mid-table, and then if they catch a good bit of form, maybe carry themselves towards the playoff spots. Depends how the window ends, I suppose, because they've still got a few weeks to address some key areas, same as we do.
Okay. All right, on to the next game then. So we are then looking ahead to the first home game of the season. You've got, in fact, 2 home games in a row now, haven't we? We've got Sheffield and then Burnley. So they're not coming easy for you. Let's have a chat to our Owls fan and preview the next game. Welcome, Andrew, to the Black Cats Walk. Can you hear us? We can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can see you, but can you see me? Because my camera's not showing me for some reason.
No, we can't see you, but as long as we can hear you, that's all good.
All right.
And
Okay.
Andrew, a great win against Plymouth, obviously, for Wednesday, but I'm not sure that's going to be anything we can talk too much about the state of Plymouth. This game will tell us a lot more about Wednesday, won't it, than the Plymouth game against Sunderland?
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see how much Sunderland have improved. I did see they looked quite impressive at Cardiff there when they were winning, of course. I'm just hoping we have more of the same from how we played against them the last match of last season, of course, and we went there and managed to get the win. It's obviously not going to be straightforward. I'm not going to think that we got off on fire today and we played absolutely superbly, that every week's going to be the same. And obviously it depends on the opposition and how they play on the day as well. But what I can tell you is that Danny Roll has made some very shrewd signings, and these guys gelled together very quickly today. And 4-0, it could easily have been 14-0. It was absolute one-way traffic without exaggeration. It really was. 30 shots we had in that game. 30. It's ridiculous, really. And we turn up like that next week at Sunderland, then they're going to be hard pressed to keep us out. That's for sure. And that's even without Ukbo playing. Ukbo's managed to resign for us. Wasn't even involved today. He wasn't even there. He's supposed to be our main striker. But the guys who were playing there, gelled together, shooting together, delivered. Simple as that. And the defence, Beadle hardly ever touched the ball. The goalkeeper probably maybe half a dozen times in the whole match.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Like I said, it is only Plymouth and Wayne Rooney. Let's too carried away. Dylan and Cal, this was the last game of the season. I'm sure it'll be fresh in your mind because it was the end of the Dodds era, which couldn't have come quick enough, I'm sure, for the both of you. When I don't know if it was true, but when Danny Roll was applauding the Wednesday fans, were the Sunderland fans also applauding him and kind of beckoning to come to come to Sunderland? Would you have taken Danny Roll?
Oh, absolutely, I would have taken him. To be honest, I don't think I made it a full time that match. I think I was off for a pint after not too long because I was just fed up with that season. But he was a name a lot of people were throwing about, hoping would be able to get him in. But obviously he's signed new terms at Wednesday, and we had to move our sights elsewhere. But yeah, really impressive young coach. I think they're going to have a much better season this year. Obviously they're not starting with the points deduction, as Andrew said there. They've made some really shrewd signings. Jamal Lowe's obviously got off to a firing start, so I think we're going to have a really good season. Thanks,
Dylan. Cal, your views on Wednesday? You've had some good battles with them over the years. There was a 5-0, I think, when you were down in League around Christmas time. You've also obviously been in that playoff semi-final as well, which I'm sure you'll want to remind them of. What do you make of Wednesday this season?
I've got to basically reiterate what Dylan said. They've made some good signings. Apparently, we were linked with that Ukbo as well. Whether that's just paper talk, I don't know. But he performed for them well last season. Jamal Lowe, good player. they've got a really, really strong core group of players in that team that have followed them from last season. And Danny Rowell seems to had definitely got the team playing and firing all the cylinders towards the end of last season. And 4-0 today, yeah, you're right. Okay, it is against Plymouth and Wayne Rooney, but it's a 4-0 win, so they've got to take that confidence into the next games and keep going, you'd imagine.
Okay, let's get some score predictions for you then, Andrew. Give us what you think.
Well, at the end of the day, what I'm hoping for is that both Wednesday and Sunderland both go up this season and get back to where we both belong. We are both Premier League clubs. There's no doubt about it. As I said to you last season, I will never forget it. Dario Grady, he said it when we were both in the third tier, that Wednesday and Sunderland were the Real Madrid and Barcelona of League One. That's exactly what our club is all about. We've both been starved of success for many, many years now, and still got massive attendances, as you know 40,000 plus. I know Sunderland and us as well. It's going to be an interesting game Saturday. I'm going to actually say that Wednesday, because we've got us on fire, I think we're going to stay on fire. And I'm actually going to say that I'm going back to 1969-70 season. That season, both of us, sadly, both went down. But Wednesday did the double over Sunderland. And I think we're going to both do the double. We're going to double over you this season. But this season, I think we're both going to go up. So I'm going for a 2-1 win for Wednesday. I think we're going to scrape home just as we did that season. 2-1 Wednesday to get the win.
Okay. I think they'll both take both of you going up this season. Dylan, you can have the prediction this week. Far off last week.
I wasn't too far off. I thought we would concede without Ballard, so I was really, really glad.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a bit of a tougher game against a better side, but I'm gonna keep the confidence. I reckon it'll be a scrape of 1-0.
Okay, brilliant. Listen, Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Good luck.
Yeah, sorry you couldn't see me, but I don't know what's wrong with the camera. I have to work on that.
It's all right. We're the winners in that one. Cheers, Andrew. Right. Okay, it's time to rate some takes. Okay, Luke Moore says, pressing higher up the pitch looked a lot more dangerous overall up top. Brilliant start. I won't do the rest of them. Cal, this hype, one of you mentioned this pressing higher up the pitch. Is this something that you think is going to be the catalyst to a good season for Sunderland? Because you didn't do much of it under Dodds at all, pressing at all, whether it's higher or midfield.
I don't know what we were doing under Dodds. But no, there was an interview with Labrie the other day, and he was saying, I think it was the pre-match one, where he was basically saying, the players have got this level, and then 5 seconds later they're down here, and we need to figure out what that difference is. And then there was another video that they've taken from training in pre-season where he's like, high tempo, high tempo, high tempo. Now, if Dylan will agree with me, last season there just seemed this massive drop in tempo in games. You go 1-0 up and you'd sit back for 10 to 15 minutes, and before you know it, you're 2-1 down, and all the fans are sat there scratching their heads. So, look, yesterday was vastly different to last season. You could see everybody was well at it in terms of what they were being asked to do across the pitch, and the tempo was a hell of a lot higher. So, yeah, it was Alain Labrie. Let's see if we can continue for the rest of the season.
I love that. Okay, Dylan, what about this one there? Providing that starting 11 stays, we get Ballard back and add a decent striker, we're going to be causing a lot of teams trouble this season. Agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crucial Dan Ballard gets back on the side as soon as possible. Obviously, it's only a couple of weeks of injury, but we don't want to rush him back. But he's one of the first names on the team sheet when he's fit, and I think it's just because when on his day he's one of the best centre backs in the league. I mean, it goes to show for me just how good he is. When, don't get us wrong, I love Luke O'Nien, but he's prone to a mistake, and he does have little gaps in his game where little shortcomings, and when Ballard is next to him, you notice it so much less, and it's testament to how good Ballard is, because he does his own job completely well and also can cover for sort of some other little shortcomings from other players. In terms of a striker, obviously it's crucial to get one through the door as soon as possible. I'm hoping it's going to be a positive end to this Alexandra Mendy saga, but God knows what's going to happen at this point. I mean, as Cal was saying earlier, Mayenda found himself in some good positions yesterday, and obviously he had the one-on-one miss. But these things happen. He's young. There's definitely a player in there, but we don't want to have to leave this window with him having all the pressure of being our number one striker.
Yeah.
But the big thing for me is that he was finding himself in those positions, because at least a couple of seasons now, we've looked like we've never really been set up to create chances for the striker. I mean, we've been ended up playing attacking midfielders. I mean, there was last season we had Joe up front most of the time. The season before that, when Sims and Stewart were injured, we were playing Alex Pritchard as like an auxiliary false nine, and it just wasn't doing the job. So I'm hoping to get a sort of bigger, more physical presence who can just create problems and get myself in the box, get me out of some chances to score loads of goals. Then we'll go up ideally.
Okay. All right, let's rate our goalkeeper then, or goalkeepers, as we promised we would do. Patterson, thank you for 11 versus for these ones. So we have Patterson, obviously, who has been, as far as I can see, has not put a foot wrong. You've obviously got Simon Moore from Coventry and the best named footballer of the whole championship, Blondie Nakur from Stoke. Let me ask you both about Patterson. Is he good enough to be number one goalkeeper for the season?
I would say so, yeah. Go on, Cal, you go first.
No, go on.
See, the thing with Patterson, he's an excellent shot stopper. He's really become more confident over the past couple of seasons, being like commanding his area. When he was playing sort of early days in League One, he'd be prone to sort of half coming off his line, then change his mind, then getting caught, getting lobbed, especially from corners. He's improved a lot in that regard. The only issue with him is that his distribution is not very good at all. And that, from what I've seen yesterday, it doesn't seem to have changed much because there was a couple, he's trying to kick it out and it's just going straight out for a throw-in. I don't know if they just don't let him kick the ball in training or what, but that is the one aspect of his game that he needs to improve on. Maybe get him on the phone to Jordan Pickford, he'd teach him how to do that wicked sidewinder kick, and then he'd have it all, because in terms of shot stopping, he's excellent. He's one of the best in the league for that, and that's why he's being rumoured with to have interest from so many clubs higher up in the pyramid. Whether it's been true or not, and whether they'd actually go for him is to be yet to be seen. But he's only going to get better. He's still young. People forget how young he is.
Mm-hmm. Cal, the test of how good a squad is and depth-wise is to look at the backup goalkeepers. How do you? Obviously, you've not seen any of them, I'm guessing, yet. So you might see one against Preston, but how do you rate your acquisitions in that area?
Oh, we saw Blondie. He was in goal in the first pre-season against Shields, and we won 5-0. And he's massive. Like he's a big lad. So that stood out very, very quickly, and his bleached blonde hair. But going back to distribution, he had a couple where the ball's come to his feet, and he's literally whipped it out to the wing to precision. Now, maybe his shot stopping is not really where Patterson's is, but Patterson should be looking over his shoulder at the fact that this guy's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He can ping a ball out wide. He can play the 50-yard diag further forward and land on the centre forward's head. Well, okay, centre forward's head, we haven't got one, but he would probably drop it into that position. Simon Moore, obviously, he's 35 years old. He's had a multitude of clubs. He looked okay in pre-season. But I think that's more of an experience thing now that obviously we've just had Matty Young go out on loan. If he's there at the end of the season, he comes back in, there's again more experience there to be able to give it out to the younger lads. And yeah, I could see probably Simon Moore starting on Tuesday night, but I think Blondie's probably going to be up there pushing Pato for that number one jersey, in my opinion.
Well, so goalkeepers, we don't need any more of. We are pretty sorted. Next week, central defenders. We will talk to you about the best central defending pairing. So get ready for that one. A time for any time. All right, 90 seconds on the clock and quick-fire questions. Here we go. Dylan, the unsung man of the match was, for you, against Cardiff?
Dennis Serkin.
Cal, can you rate the referee in?
So say that again.
I rate the referee at performance out of
10. 5.5. Yes, it was a bit suspect.
Dylan, against Sheffield Wednesday, any changes to the starting 11? And if so, where?
Hypothetical striker that we haven't signed yet, starting up front. But other than that, I think he got a pretty spot on. That's probably our best team at the minute, based on who's available. So I'm happy for him to keep it the same.
Okay, Cal, if an offer for Jack Clark should come in the next 2 weeks, what does that bid needs at least be for it to be considered?
100 million.
Dylan, it's the Carabao
100 million.
Cup.
100 million, and I'll fly back from Abu Dhabi to drive him down to sign for whoever it is that's paid the money.
Dylan, it's Carabao Cup this week against Preston. If I could offer you a Carabao Cup win or a playoff final, which one would you take?
Playoff final, without a doubt.
Okay, Cal, same question to you, but this time the Carabao Cup final, and the win is against Newcastle, and it's a full win at Wembley. You still taking the playoff final?
Yes, because we'd be promoted and in the same league as them, and we can beat them twice in one season instead of once.
Okay, fair enough then. Dylan, beat Preston or beat Sheffield Wednesday?
Beat Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay. Right. And finally, Cal, do you want to revise your prediction where Sunderland will finish based on the game against Cardiff?
No, it's still too early to tell. I'll stick with playoffs.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much again for joining us both. Sunderland fans, please obviously like the video and do the usual subscribing. We'll be here with you for the whole journey of this bumpy season, but it's nice to have a good start for Sunderland. I remember talking to Sunderland friends that just write off the first 2 or 3 games of every season because we just never do well. So this feels different, doesn't it? Feels nice. Long may it last. Right, cheers, fellas. We will catch you next week when we're obviously going to review the Wednesday game, the Preston game, and also talk ahead to our third game of the season. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, guys.